Sir, with all due respect, we have procedures for this.
And I am invoking an exception. Secure the scene, officer. We have procedures in place for a reason, Councilman.
And we expect those procedures to be applied fairly.
Rain glazed the city in a thin, silver sheen as Malik Warren crossed Jefferson Square. His suit was crisp, his steps measured, briefcase swinging by his side, the kind of quiet dignity people pretended not to see. A police cruiser idled near the curb, engine humming low. "Hey, you there?" The shout sliced through the drizzle. Malik turned. The officer, white, broad-shouldered, jaw-locked, strode toward him with that slow, possessive gait of someone who believed the sidewalk was his jurisdiction. "What's in the bag?" Malik blinked, confused. "My work documents. Hands where I can see, M." Pedestrians slowed. A woman clutched her child's hand tighter. Malik's voice stayed calm, almost rehearsed. "Officer, I'm not resisting." The man grabbed his wrist anyway, twisting hard. Pain shot up Malik's arm. The briefcase hit the ground, papers spilling like broken order onto the wet pavement. The officer's knee drove him down. Asphalt scraped skin. "Suspect resisting," the cop barked into his radio. "Resisting what?" Malik gasped, being suspicious. Phones emerged, recording. The scene hardened, authority on one knee, dignity under it. Then a distant shout cracked through the crowd. Someone running, breathless, terrified. "Stop, that's the mayor." Everything froze, the officer's hand mid-air, the radio still crackling. The sound of the word mayor hung in the air like an accusation no badge could block. Malik looked up from the pavement, rain streaking down his face, eyes steady and hollow. And for the first time, the officer's certainty faltered. The rain hadn't stopped since dusk, a steady whisper against the concrete arteries of the city. Malik Warren pulled his collar tighter as he stepped out of City Hall. Fatigue etched beneath his eyes. It was nearly midnight, but he preferred walking. The silence between streets, the clarity after a day of noise. He barely noticed the police cruiser until it rolled past, then slowed. The door opened. "Evening," the officer called. "Mind telling me what you're doing out here this late?" Malik turned, surprised. Heading home, Officer Brent Havers took a step closer. The flashlight's beam traced Malik's face, the briefcase, the tailored suit. "You live around here?" "Yes, 2 blocks east." Halvis's tone hardened. "God, Malik frowned. "Is there a problem?" "Didn't ask that. I asked for ID." A couple passing by glanced over, then hurried off. Malik sighed, reaching slowly into his pocket. Here Havers didn't take it. He just stared. "You from out of town?" Malik met his gaze. "Born here." Something shifted, the officer's expression, the air itself. "Funny," Havers muttered. "You don't look like someone who works at City Hall." Malik's jaw tightened. "You're right," he said softly. "I run it." Havers smirked. "Sure you do." The moment hung sharp and dangerous. "Step aside, sir," Havers said, hand drifting to his holster. "For what reason?" "Suspicious activity." "You match a description." Malik felt heat rise in his chest. A description of what? Havers didn't answer. He grabbed Malik's wrist. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed across the square. "Officer, that's enough," a voice shouted, a bystander filming. Breathless Havers ignored it. "Stop resisting." "I'm not." The shove came hard, slamming Malik to his knees. His briefcase burst open, papers scattering through puddles. His reflection trembled in the water. A man divided between fury and disbelief. "Suspect detained," Havers said into his radio. Rain drummed harder. Malik's palms burned. His voice, when it came, was low and precise. "You're making a mistake." Havers bent down, sneering. "Then I'll be the one to correct it." Sirens murmured in the distance. More phones rose from the crowd. Malik lifted his head slowly, eyes locking on the dark glass of a storefront across the street. His own reflection framed by flashing lights. He didn't see fear there, only resolve. And when the cuffs tightened, he whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "They'll know." The officer paused. "What?" Malik didn't answer. The petrol lights flared, painting the rain red and blue. Somewhere in the watching crowd, a voice began to murmur his name, hesitant at first, then louder, spreading through the air like a breaking wave. Mayor Warren Havers froze. His grip loosened, but the cameras had already seen everything. Morning sunlight hit the city like judgment. Screens flickered to life, phones, televisions, storefront displays, all replaying the same 43-second clip. A man in a suit, face pressed to wet pavement, a white officer kneeling on his back, and then, the voice that pierced the recording. That's the mayor. The video looped endlessly, an unintentional indictment of the city it showed, inside his apartment. Malik sat motionless before the TV. The broadcast anchor spoke in that careful tone of breaking news. All gravity, no heart. Sources confirmed the individual detained last night was indeed Mayor Malik Warren, arrested in error by Officer Brent Havers of the Jefferson Police Department. Malik muted the sound. Silence felt more honest. His phone buzzed. 20, 30 messages in seconds. Advisors, reporters, old friends, all asking the same question. Are you okay? He wasn't, but that wasn't the point. A knock hit the door. Sharp, urgent. What is Chief of Staff? Layla Owens slipped in. Sir, he raised a hand. Just Malik, right now. She hesitated. The press is outside. Half the council's calling for your statement. He exhaled slowly, looking at the paused image on the TV. His own body, on the ground, frozen in humiliation. They want outrage, he said. They'll get clarity. At Jefferson Police Headquarters, Officer Brent Havers sat in a small conference room, staring at the coffee he hadn't touched. Across the table, Captain Doyle was pacing. Jesus, Brent, you realize who that was? Havers rubbed his temples. I told you, he didn't identify himself. You cuffed the mayor in the middle of downtown. He fit the description of a suspect from a call 20 minutes earlier. Doyle slammed his palm on the table. The description said hoodie and jeans, not a damn three-piece suit. Brent's jaw clenched. So what? He didn't belong out there that late. Looked out of place. The words hung thick. Doyle's expression hardened. Do you even hear yourself? The PR officer stepped in then, thin, composed, wearing a forced calm. Gentlemen, this is bigger than you now. We'll handle media messaging. You'll release a statement. Unfortunate misunderstanding. Standard procedure. No ill intent. You know the drill. Havers stared at her. And if I don't, then you're alone, she said simply, and the city will eat you alive. By noon, every major outlet had picked it up. The hashtags multiplied. Hashtag mayor, hashtag racism, and hashtag Jefferson Square. Crowds began forming outside the precinct, holding signs still dripping with fresh paint. At City Hall, Malik faced the first camera crew. The lights were harsh, sterile. Layla stood just behind him, whispering, "Be careful. Every word will be dissected." He nodded once. The reporter began. Mayor Warren, how do you respond to claims that this was simply a misunderstanding? Malik looked directly into the lens. If a misunderstanding means being thrown to the ground because of how I look, then this city has misunderstood black men for far too long. A hush rippled through the room. He continued, voice level but weighted. I am not angry for myself. I am angry for every citizen who does not have a title to shield them. The difference between me and them is a headline. That's all. Layla exhaled softly behind him. Not relief, not pride, just gravity. The next reporter spoke. Do you intend to press charges against the officer? Malik's gaze didn't waver. This isn't about one officer. It's about a system that trains good men to see threat where there is none. I want accountability, not vengeance. The room buzzed, pens scratching, cameras clicking. Across town, Brent sat in his car, watching the live broadcast on his phone. Malik's calm precision unsettled him more than any accusation could. His wife's text popped up on screen. Turn off the news. They're making you the villain. He typed back, maybe I am, then deleted it. His phone rang, an unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Officer the voice was measured, official. Internal affairs. We'll need you in at 9 a.m. for questioning. He hung up, stared at his reflection in the windshield, and saw the cracks forming. Evening descended, heavy and humid. City Hall's steps were crowded with candles, flowers, and signs. Malik stood by the window, watching people gather. Some prayed, some shouted. Layla's voice was quiet beside him. They're here for you. No, he said. They're here for what happened to them, through me. She nodded, understanding. He added, almost to himself, they'll expect me to forgive, to calm it down. And will you? Malik looked out over the flickering crowd. Not yet. The chant rose from the street then, rhythmic, unified, echoing against the marble buildings. We see you. We see you. Malik closed his eyes. The words weren't just for him. They were for every unseen face that had ever been pressed into pavement. And for the first time since last night, he let himself feel the full weight of it, not just anger, but belonging. Tomorrow, the system would call it damage control. Tonight, it was something closer to truth. The conference room smelled of disinfectant and stale coffee. the scent of bureaucracy. Malik sat across from 3 members of the Internal Affairs Division, their expressions arranged somewhere between apology and formality. A small red light blinked on the recorder between them. Captain Doyle stood against the wall, arms folded. "Mayor Warren," said the lead investigator, a gray-haired man named Renshaw, "we'd like to start by saying we regret the incident." "We understand it's been unacceptable," Malik interrupted. His voice was calm, but the air sharpened around the word. Renshaw blinked. "Yes, unacceptable. Our goal is to establish a clear record of events and ensure proper procedure." Was followed. "Proper procedure." Malik leaned forward. "Tell me, Mr. Renshaw, which part of your procedure involves throwing a man to the ground before verifying identity?" The silence that followed was almost audible. Doyle shifted his stance, clearing his throat. "Mayor, the department's committed to transparency, but we have to follow established review channels." "Channels that you control," Malik replied. The youngest investigator, a woman with tired eyes, hesitated before speaking. "Mr. Mayor, we're not here to defend anyone. We just need your statement." He nodded slowly. "Then write this down. Power protects itself. That's your real procedure." The pen in her hand trembled slightly. Later, outside the station, cameras waited like vultures. Layla was there again, intercepting most of them, shielding Malik with quiet efficiency. One journalist managed to push through. "Mayor Warren, is it true you're filing a formal complaint against the Jefferson Police Department?" Malik stopped walking. "I'm filing a demand," he said, "for reform, not just a complaint." "What kind of reform?" "The kind that doesn't depend on who's holding the badge." The reporter hesitated, caught off guard by the bluntness. Malik moved past, the crowd partying like tied around conviction. In the chief's office, Captain Doyle rubbed at his temples. "He's not letting it go," he muttered. Across from him sat Renshaw. "He shouldn't. He's right." Doyle shot him a look. "You're not paid to agree with him. We've got the union breathing down our necks. They want this closed before the weekend." Renshaw sighed. "We could have handled it internally. If Havertz hadn't doubled down in the report." "What did he write?" "That the suspect appeared evasive, possibly intoxicated. No evidence, no test, nothing." Doyle cursed under his breath. "Jesus, Brent." That evening, Malik met with the city attorney in his office. Papers covered the desk, policy drafts, statements, risk assessments. "Mayor," the attorney began carefully, "you're within your rights to sue the department." "I'm not suing," Malik said. "That would turn this into me versus him. This is about the system that allowed him." The attorney frowned. "Without legal action, they'll bury it in process. Then I'll make the process public." The man hesitated. "That's risky." "So is existing in this city while black," Malik said flatly. The silence after that was thick. UNARGUABLE. Outside, Jefferson Square had changed tone. The first protests had turned into organized vigils. Signs now bore his face, but also the faces of others, names lost to quieter injustices. Malik stood at the edge of the crowd that night, unannounced. People didn't recognize him at first. He watched them light candles, whisper prayers, cry into each other's shoulders. Beside him, an older woman murmured, "Maybe now they'll listen." Malik turned slightly. To what we've been saying for years." Her eyes met his, clear, steady. "That we don't want apologies. We want change." He nodded once, the weight of her words settling into him deeper than any speech could reach. Meanwhile, inside his apartment, Brent Hevers replayed the incident footage again and again. The audio muted. Every frame showed him in sharper shame. His wife sat on the couch, hands clasped tight. "You need to talk to someone," she whispered. He didn't answer. "They're calling you racist on every channel." He stared at the frozen image of Malik's face, not afraid, not pleading, just looking back at him. "Finally," Brent said, voice hollow. He didn't even raise his voice. His wife swallowed. "What?" "That's what I can't stop hearing." He didn't fight, didn't yell. He just looked at me. He switched off the screen. The room fell into darkness. At City Hall, Malik's reflection lingered in the window, city lights flickering below. Layla entered quietly. "They're setting up a press conference tomorrow," she said. "Internal Affairs will announce preliminary findings." Malik didn't turn. "And they'll call it what?" She hesitated. "A procedural error." He nodded slowly, jaw tight. "Then I'll redefine the term for them." The clock ticked behind him, steady and indifferent. Outside, a siren wailed. Another call. "Another night." Malik whispered, almost to the glass. "I won't let them normalize this." The city looked back, silent and waiting. The conference room at Jefferson Police Headquarters had been transformed into a stage of denial. Reporters crowded behind the barricades, cameras trained on the podium where Officer Brent Havers was about to speak. His face looked worn, pale from nights without sleep. To his right stood his lawyer, crisp suit, deliberate poise, and to his left, the union representative, jaw locked in silent defiance. When the microphones clicked on, Brent cleared his throat. I want to begin by saying, I never intended to disrespect anyone, least of all Mayor Warren. What happened that night was a misunderstanding during a lawful stop. Flashes erupted, questions overlapping, voices rising. Do you think you were racially profiling him? Why didn't you recognize the mayor? Brent gripped the podium tighter. I acted on information from dispatch. A suspect matching the description was reported near Jefferson Square. I followed standard procedure. Do you regret it? Someone called. He hesitated. I regret the situation escalated. The words landed cold, hollow. The lawyer nodded subtly. Stick to the script. Across the room, Captain Doyle's expression was unreadable. He knew this wouldn't help. Hours later, in the parking lot, Brent lit a cigarette he didn't finish. The smoke curled up like confession. His lawyer approached. That statement should hold them off a few days. Just keep quiet. Brent nodded absently. They want blood. They want accountability, the lawyer corrected, voice low. You should too. Brent's jaw flexed. You think I meant to do it. I think you did what the system trained you to do. The lawyer walked away, leaving the words to burn on contact. At City Hall, Malik watched the press conference replay on mute. Layla entered with a stack of letters, most supportive, some venomous. He called it a misunderstanding. Malik murmured, That's the word they always use, she said quietly, the word that turns intent into accident. He looked out the window at the growing crowd below, larger each day, more organized, more restless. They're marching again tonight, Layla continued. You should. I will, he interrupted, but not to lead, to listen. That evening, the march moved through Jefferson Square, a river of umbrellas and signs. The rain returned, but no one cared. A young activist on a megaphone shouted, Say his name. The crowd roared. Malik Warren. Malik stood at the edge again, coat-soaked, hands in his pockets. He didn't want to chant, he wanted memory. He wanted change to root somewhere deeper than outrage. Beside him, a teenager held a handmade sign, You can't reform silence. He asked softly, Did you make that? She nodded, rain dripping from her hood. Yeah. My brother was stopped last year. Same thing, no video that time. He looked at her, really looked, and felt the same fire from the night on the ground. Keep that sign, he said. Don't let them take it from you. Meanwhile, Brent sat in his living room, TV muted again, beer untouched. His wife, Claire, was pacing. They suspended you with pay, she said. That's not bad. He didn't respond. You just have to wait it out, Brent. The noise will die down. It always does. He looked up then, eyes distant. That's the problem. Claire frowned. What do you mean? It always dies down. And then it happens again, and we pretend we don't see it. She sank onto the couch beside him. You're not one of those monsters on the news. You're a good man. He stared at the floor. Good men don't end up kneeling on other men's backs. Silence filled the space, thicker than guilt. The next morning, Malik received a call from the Attorney General's office, formal, procedural, sterile. Mayor Warren, we're opening an official review. It'll take time, but the process has begun. He thanked them, voice steady. When he hung up, Layla asked, Does it feel like progress? He shook his head. It feels like delay. Across town, Brent met with the police union board. The men at the table were blunt, their tone mechanical. You'll stay quiet. Don't speak to media again. Don't apologize. That'll be taken as admission. Brent looked around the room. What if it was wrong? A man scoffed. You start saying that, you'll drag the whole department down with you. Brent leaned back, the fluorescent lights harsh above him. Maybe that's what needs to happen. The room fell silent. Someone muttered, You've been talking to reporters, haven't you? He stood up, pushing his chair back. No, he said, but maybe I should. He walked out, the door clicking behind him like the sound of a fracture forming. That night, the city slept uneasy. Two men, on opposite sides of power, both awaked at Malik at his desk, drafting a proposal for police oversight. Brent at his kitchen table, drafting an apology letter he would never send. The rain began again, steady and familiar. And somewhere between them, the city waited, suspended in the space between silence and reckoning. The city woke to the sound of voices, not sirens, not speeches, voices, thousands of them. The protest had started as a vigil, but swelled overnight into something larger, angrier, undeniable. From the steps of City Hall, Malik could see the crowd stretch beyond the square, signs rising like a forest of demands. Justice for all, no badge above the law, reform now. The air smelled of wet concrete and conviction. Layla handed him a microphone. There waiting, he hesitated, scanning the faces, students, nurses, construction workers, old men in veterans' caps. Every one of them carried the same expression, weary, resolute. He stepped forward. The murmuring subsided. When I was on that ground, he began, voice steady, I thought of every time I'd told someone, stay calm, trust the system. He paused. I realized the system trusts no one who looks like me. A ripple went through the crowd. Not cheers, not yet. Listening. I don't want vengeance, he said. I want structure, accountability. I want laws that outlive outrage. Someone shouted, then make them. Malik nodded once. That's exactly what I intend to do. The roar that followed was deafening. It wasn't celebration. It was ignition. Inside the precinct, Officer Brent Havers watched the speech on a mounted TV. His colleagues stood nearby, muttering. Politicians grandstanding. One said, yeah, he's milking it. Another replied. Brent said nothing. His face was drawn, haunted by something heavier than public opinion. When the chief entered, the room stiffened. All right, Captain Doyle said. New orders. Keep a low profile. The department's not issuing more statements until the review closes. Brent asked quietly. And what about reform? Doyle shot him a look. You don't speak that word in here. Brent stared at the screen again. Malik's calm defiance replaying in loop. Maybe that's the problem, he murmured. Across town, newsrooms buzzed. Every outlet wanted the same thing, a soundbite that captured the city's unrest. Journalist Dana Cruz sat at her desk, rewatching the viral clip of the arrest. She paused on one frame, Brent's face, mid-shove, Malik's expression beneath him. Freeze that, her producer said. That's the cover shot. Dana frowned. No, that's exploitation. The story's not about pain, it's about power. She scrolled through recent complaints filed against Havers, buried reports, sealed memos. Something caught her eye. Wait, these are internal dismissals. How many? The producer asked. 5, she said, all marked insufficient evidence. She leaned back, heartbeat quickening. They knew. By evening, the crowd outside City Hall had doubled. Candlelight flickered in every hand. Someone began to sing low at first, then spreading, We shall not be moved. Malik stood behind the curtains inside, listening. Layla said softly, The governor's office just called. They're watching this closely. I hope they're taking notes, Malik replied. You're not afraid of losing allies? He turned to her, eyes tired but fierce. If reform costs me friends, then they weren't allies. At home, Brent's phone buzzed again. His wife, his union rep, his lawyer. He ignored them all. Instead, he opened his laptop and searched his own name. Page after page of headlines, accusations, think pieces, photos. He clicked one link, a pattern of power, the hidden reports behind the Havers case, Dana Cruz's article. He scrolled slowly, reading each paragraph. His stomach twisted. She had the files, the complaints, the departmental shielding, even the names of those he'd wronged before. Asterisk, he whispered. They knew. Claire looked up from the couch. Who knew? The department, the whole damn system. Then you can tell them, she urged. He shook his head. And end my career. She stared at him. Your career ended the moment you put that man on the ground. Brent looked away, shame crawling up his throat like smoke. The next day, Malik received the article's PDF in his email, with no message attached. He read it once, then again. The pattern was clear. Years of negligence dressed as policy. Layla entered mid. What is it? He turned the screen toward her. Proof. She scanned quickly. Do we go public? He thought for a long moment. Not yet. Let them deny it first. Then we'll show it. His voice was controlled, surgical, the precision of a man who'd learned to weaponize patience. That night, City Hall became the epicenter of something unstoppable. News vans lined the street. Protesters sang enchanted. Police stood back, wary, restrained. Malik addressed the crowd again, this time without notes. They said it was an isolated incident, he said, but isolation requires blindness, and we see too clearly now. He held up the printed article. The evidence in black and white. This is not about one man. It's about a system that wrote our pain into policy. The crowd surged, chanting his name, not in worship, but in witness. Mayor Warren, Mayor Warren. Flashes from cameras lit the night like lightning. Behind the barricades, Brent stood in plain clothes, hood up, watching. For the first time, he didn't see a crowd against him. He saw people carrying the weight of what he'd been part of. He whispered to himself, almost prayer-like, "It can't end like this." Later, Malik sat alone in his office, city lights winking beyond the window. His reflection looked older, heavier. Layla entered quietly. "The networks are calling it the Jefferson movement." He gave a faint, humorless smile. "Movements fade if nothing moves with them." "Something's moving," she said. "You started it." Malik didn't answer. He looked out at the square again. The chants, the candles, the endless hum of demand. He whispered, "Then it's not mine anymore." Outside, thunder rolled over the skyline, echoing the rhythm of thousands of footsteps. Refusing to stop, the leaked report detonated at 7:43 a.m. By noon, every major network had picked it apart, page by page, memo by memo, timestamp by timestamp. Names of officers, internal cover-ups, deleted body cam footage, forged logs. The entire scaffolding of the precinct was exposed. The words, "systemic negligence," trended worldwide. Malik sat in the governor's office across from a row of men in suits. None of them made eye contact. "Mr. Jefferson," one finally said, voice controlled, "we understand your frustration, but public outrage doesn't build policy." Malik's gaze was sharp. "Neither does silence." Another man leaned forward. "You want reforms? Fine, we'll open a review committee." He shook his head. "A committee is delay. I want implementation, oversight, mandatory accountability audits, civilian review boards." The governor, an aging man with precise diction, interjected, "You're asking for a dismantling of police authority." "No," Malik replied. "I'm asking for reconstruction. Authority without responsibility is tyranny." The room went still. The governor studied him for a long moment, then exhaled. "Draft your proposal. I'll read it." Malik rose. "Don't read it. Sign it." Then he left. In a corner office across town, journalist Dana Cruz watched the chaos unfold. Her inbox was a flood of threats and praise in equal measure. Her editor burst in. "You just burned half the department, Dana. You understand what this means?" "Yes," she said calmly. "It means the truth's finally louder than their excuses." "Be careful," he warned. "You've rattled people who don't stay quiet." She minimized her inbox. "Good." At home, Brent stared at the television. Every anchor, every pundit, every politician dissected the report. His name wasn't alone anymore. Dozens of others appeared beside it. His phone buzzed. "Unknown number." He answered. "Have orders." A flat voice. "You think throwing us under the bus will save you?" "I didn't leak it," he said. "Then find out who did, before they find you." The line clicked dead. Brent's hands trembled. He looked at his reflection in the black TV screen. A man stripped of uniform, identity, protection. For years, he had believed the badge gave him purpose. Now it was a brand. He whispered, "Maybe I deserved it." By evening, the city split in two. Half demanded resignations. The other half demanded order. Protests swelled again, larger than before. Helicopters thudded overhead. Police lines formed. Malik stood on a makeshift stage, his voice cutting through the roar. "This is not chaos," he declared. "This is clarity. The system isn't breaking, it's revealing itself." A bottle shattered nearby. Officers flinched. The crowd pressed forward. "Hold the line." Someone shouted. Layla climbed up beside him. "They're pushing too close." He grabbed the mic again. "Listen to me. No fire, no fight. We win by restraint." The words rippled outward. Slowly, the front line eased. He looked across the barrier, eyes meeting those of a single officer, Brent. Neither moved. The space between them was charged. History compressed into silence. Brent mouthed something. Malik couldn't hear it. Then Brent lowered his baton. Malik nodded once, small, deliberate, a signal of recognition, not forgiveness, not yet. Hours later, Brent drove to the station. The parking lot was half empty, lights dimmed. He walked to the records room. The clerk barely looked up. "Back again," she muttered. "I need access to the internal log backups." "Not authorized." He placed his ID on the counter. "Now I am." Minutes later, he scrolled through old files, names, timestamps, audio transcriptions. Then he found it. Incident 17A09. The original bodycam file from Malik's arrest. Unedited. He pressed play. The footage showed what the public never saw. Brent hesitating, his partner shouting, a senior officer ordering, "Get him down, we can't risk optics." Brent froze the frame. That voice, it wasn't his order. He copied the file to a flash drive. When he turned to leave, two men in suits blocked the doorway. "Going somewhere, officer." He slipped the flash drive into his pocket. "Not officer anymore." One of the men smirked. "You should have stayed that way." Brent lunged. The struggle was brief, violent. A file shelf crashed. Alarms blitzed. He sprinted through the back exit, clutching the drive like a lifeline. At the same hour, Malik met with Layla and Dana at a dim cafe off Lexington. Layla whispered, "Anonymous source just sent us something." Dana opened her laptop. Video file, timestamp, matches the arrest night. They played it. Silence filled the room. Layla's eyes widened. "That order came from above," Dana finished. Malik exhaled slowly. "Chain of command, that's the kill shot." "What do you want to do?" Dana asked. He leaned forward. "Release it publicly. No delay, no spin. People need to see who pulled the strings." Layla hesitated. "You sure? It'll destroy what's left of the department." "It already destroyed itself," he said. "We're just turning on the lights." At 9:15 p.m., every major network received the file. Within minutes, it hit social media. The video went viral instantly. The face of Captain Doyle filled the screen, barking the order that sparked everything. Public reaction was immediate shock, rage, vindication. Protests turned into marches of resolve, not chaos. Banners read, "We heard the truth." Malik stood at the edge of the crowd, silent. The weight he'd carried for months began to lift, piece by piece. Layla joined him. "You did it." He shook his head. "No, he did." "Who?" "The man who gave it to us." Across the city, Brent sat in his car, overlooking the river, phone buzzing endlessly. He turned it off, tossed it aside, and watched the lights shimmer on the water. For the first time, he didn't feel hunted. He felt clean. He whispered, "Let it burn." The sound of sirens faded into distance. The city, exhausted and raw, was finally awake. The department fell apart in 48 hours. Captain Doyle resigned before dawn. By midday, his resignation letter leaked thinly veiled threats of betrayal from within and political witch hunts, but no one cared. Investigators raided his office before sunset. The mayor's mansion, Malik's home, was surrounded by cameras, reporters shouting over one another. Headlines screamed, "Mayor Jefferson vindicated" and "Command conspiracy exposed." Inside, Malik stood by the window, exhausted. His reflection in the glass didn't look like victory. It looked like aftermath. Layla entered, a folder in hand. "It's official. State prosecutors are opening charges. Doyle, Internal Affairs, even the chief." He nodded. "It's too fast." She frowned. "You expected hesitation." "I expected resistance," he said quietly. "Corruption doesn't crumble, it clings." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we make sure it doesn't get back up." Across town, Brent woke up in his apartment to pounding at the door. He reached for the gun on his nightstand, then froze. "Police." He hesitated. He'd expected this. Still, the words carried a sting he couldn't shake. He opened the door. Two Internal Affairs agents stood there. "You're wanted for questioning regarding unauthorized data transfer," one said flatly. Brent nodded. "You mean the truth. Let's not make this difficult." He raised his hands. "I've been making it easy my whole life." They cuffed him and led him down the hall. Neighbors peeked through cracks in their doors, the same neighbors who once smiled politely, now whispering. He didn't look back. Dana Cruz was live on national TV when the first domino fell. "Sources confirm Captain Doyle has been taken into custody pending obstruction and falsification charges," she announced, voice unwavering. "Public officials are calling it the largest departmental purge in state history." Behind her, chants echoed from the courthouse steps. "Accountability, justice." Her producer's voice buzzed in her earpiece. "We're getting unconfirmed reports. Brent Havers is cooperating with investigators." She didn't blink. "Confirm that, then patch me through to Malik Jefferson's office." Off camera, she muttered, "They'll call it reform. It's not, it's survival." Inside the interrogation room, Brent sat across from two prosecutors. The fluorescent lights above him flickered, humming like insects. "You handed over classified material," one began. "I handed over evidence," he replied. "That's not how protocol works." He smirked bitterly. "Neither is racism." The prosecutor leaned forward. You're facing serious charges, have I? But cooperation could change that. I'm not here for leverage, he said. I'm here for closure. Then start talking. He did. For 3 hours, he laid everything out: orders, falsified reports, internal politics, the quiet code of loyalty that protected white officers and punished everyone else. When he finished, the room was silent. The younger prosecutor finally spoke. Why now? Brent's eyes flicked up. Because I finally watched what I'd done. That night, Malik met Dana in a quiet office overlooking the courthouse. Havers is testifying tomorrow, she said. He exhaled. Then it's ending. Is it? She asked. He turned toward her. What do you mean? She tapped the window. They'll rebuild it, you know. New names, same walls. I know. So what's next? Malik's gaze drifted toward the city skyline. Healing. And that's harder than protest. Morning. The courthouse was packed. Malik entered through the side door, flanked by aides. Cameras flashed like lightning. Inside, Brent sat at the witness stand, hands clasped. The judge adjusted her glasses. Mr. Havers, you understand the consequences of your testimony. Yes, Your Honor. He turned to face the courtroom. For a moment, he caught Malik's eye. Neither looked away, he began. His words were slow, deliberate, the kind of truth that stripped illusions bare. Every order he'd obeyed, every lie he'd justified, every silence he'd kept. Gasps rippled through the audience as he described how command framed Malik to set an example. By the end, even the stenographer's hands trembled. The judge's voice broke the silence. This court will reassess for deliberation. As people filed out, Brent remained seated. Malik approached him quietly. You didn't have to do this, Malik said. Yes, I did, Brent replied. I arrested you once. I needed to free you now. Malik's expression softened for the first time in months. You can't erase what happened. I'm not trying to, Brent said. I'm just trying to live with it. That evening, the verdict came down. Captain Doyle, guilty on multiple counts. Chief of Police, suspended pending trial. Department-wide review approved unanimously. The crowd outside erupted into cheers. News anchors called it a turning point. Malik stepped onto the courthouse steps, cameras blinding him. He raised his hand for silence. Justice, he said, voice steady, isn't victory, it's correction. And we're not done correcting yet. Applause thundered. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the night before any journalist could stop him. Later, at the riverfront, Malik found Brent sitting on the same bench from weeks ago. You still come here, Malik said. Brent shrugged. It's quiet. They sat in silence. The city lights shimmered off the water. Do you think people can change? Brent asked. Malik took a long breath. People, yes. Systems, only when people stop serving them blindly. Brent nodded. Then maybe there's hope for you, Malik said, standing. And for the rest of us, if we keep remembering. He walked off, leaving Brent staring at the ripples on the river. The sound of distant sirens carried on the wind, faint, fading, almost human. In the newsroom, Dana filed her final piece. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, through those who've seen enough to speak. She hit send. Across the city, a single banner hung from the courthouse gates. We're not asking to be believed. We're proving we were right. The wind caught it, tearing one corner loose, fluttering like a flag of unfinished work. The world was still broken, but for the first time, it had cracked open wide enough for the light to get in. The city woke different, quieter, but uneasy. The kind of silence that follows thunder. Streets were clean again, police cars patrolled, but people looked longer at badges now. The air felt watchful. Malik walked through the civic square, his steps echoing off marble. Reporters still hovered at a distance, but no one called out. His name had become more than a headline. It was a test, a symbol, and a burden. He stopped in front of City Hall, staring up at the engraved words, to serve and protect. For the first time, they didn't sound hollow, just unfinished. Inside, his staff gathered for a press statement. Layla reviewed her notes. You sure about this, Malik? The council might push back hard. They will, he said. But this isn't about them. It's about legacy. She glanced up. Who's? He didn't answer. When the cameras went live, Malik stepped to the podium. Months ago, he began, I was arrested for existing in the wrong skin, at the wrong moment. That moment exposed something we've all known, that injustice doesn't come from monsters. It comes from habits, from systems built to favor comfort over truth. He paused, scanning the faces before him, officers, citizens, press, survivors. Today, we're establishing the Jefferson Commission for Civic Integrity, independent oversight, citizen inclusion, every badge accountable to the people it serves. Flashes erupted. Reporters murmured. Malik continued, voice steady. Justice isn't revenge, it's repair. And repair starts where pride ends. He stepped away from the podium, not waiting for applause. Outside, protesters had gathered, not angry, just present. Signs read, "Never again. Truth has receipts." A small group broke into applause as Malik exited. One woman reached out, tears streaking her cheeks. "My brother," she whispered, "he didn't survive his arrest. Thank you for making them see us." Malik met her gaze. "They should have seen you long ago." He moved through the crowd, slow, deliberate. Every cheer, every touch, felt like both grace and weight. Meanwhile, Brent sat in a holding cell awaiting transfer. No cameras now, no protection, just the hum of fluorescent light and the creak of metal. A guard slid open the door. "You've got a visitor." Malik stepped inside. Brent stood. "Didn't think you'd come." "I didn't come for closure," Malik said. "I came for truth." Brent nodded. "Then you'll get it. I followed orders because I thought the system was me. I was wrong." "You were," Malik said evenly. "But you did what others wouldn't. You broke the code." Brent looked down. "Doesn't feel like redemption." "It isn't," Malik said. "It's responsibility. Redemption's not the point." He turned to leave. Brent called after him. "Do you forgive me?" Malik stopped, hand on the door. "I don't forgive systems," he said, "and you're part of one. But I see you trying to step out of it. That's enough for now." The door closed behind him with a heavy clang. That night, Malik drove without destination, city lights blurring through the windshield. Radio chatter replayed snippets from the hearings, the reforms, the fallout, his name over and over. He turned it off. Silence. At the bridge overlooking the river, he parked, the same bridge where Brent had once sat in shame, where protests had marched beneath sirens. Now, it was still. He leaned against the railing, eyes tracing the current. The reflection of the city shimmered like fractured glass, beautiful, imperfect, alive. Layla called. "You okay?" He hesitated. "Define okay." She smiled through the line. "The reforms passed." Dana just confirmed. "It's real now." "Good," he said. "You don't sound relieved." "I'm tired, Layla, the kind of tired that doesn't sleep." "You carried the whole city." "I carried its guilt," he corrected. "Now it's theirs to bear." The next morning, news broke that Doyle had confessed to years of evidence suppression deals, payoffs, racial quotas in arrests. The shock was absolute. Dana reported live, voice unflinching. "The illusion of order has cracked, revealing the machinery beneath. Now the question is, who rebuilds it?" Her piece closed with a single line. "Justice begins when the comfortable lose their comfort." Days later, Malik visited his mother's grave in a quiet hillside cemetery. The air smelled of rain and pine. He placed a folded newspaper on the headstone. The headline read, "Mayor Jefferson's Integrity Bill Signed into Law." "She used to tell me," he said softly, "that truth doesn't save you, it just shows you where you stand." He knelt, resting his palm on the stone. "I finally see where I stand, Mama. It's not clean, but it's real." Across town, Brent's sentencing was broadcast live. Reduced sentence, probation, community service, mandatory testimony in future hearings. Outside the courthouse, someone shouted, "Traitor!" Brent didn't react. He kept walking. For the first time, he didn't hide behind the badge. He faced the city as himself, flawed, stripped, unarmed. Weeks passed. The protests quieted. The reforms took hold. Schools began new training programs. Police academies changed their codes of conduct. And for the first time, a civilian council reviewed every misconduct case. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress that bled from truth, not illusion. One night, Malik stood at the window of his office, watching rain fall against the glass. The city glowed below, bruised but breathing. Dana entered. "You still working?" He smiled faintly. "Just thinking about how fast the world forgets." She handed him a printed quote from her latest piece. "Memory is the only justice time can't erase." He read it twice. "Keep writing, Dana." "I will," she said. "And you keep standing." Later, as Malik walked out into the rain, his reflection shimmered on the wet pavement. For a fleeting moment, it wasn't just him. It was every man and woman who'd stood in his place, shouted for air, demanded to be seen. "The storm washed nothing away, but it made everything visible," he whispered, almost to the wind. "Now they see us." And for the first time, That felt like victory.